with the action plan. We are planning, once it is released as a part of that release stage, to have our members of the Southern Business Leadership Council go on the Hill and speak to policymakers about the recommendations that are included in the action plan. Because I totally agree with you. It's why Sarah, and I should have said who she was, Sarah Shuptron is the former founder and president, CEO of the Southern Institute, and she is the one who envisioned the Southern Business Leadership Council. But you know, her vision was that we being the people who are working on in the nonprofit industry and advocacy industry, we'd sort of push that envelope as far as we could, and we needed new voices to come to the table, and it's why we developed the Southern Business Leadership Council, to have that stronger voice, to go to policymakers to say, look, there are some things that can be done to help deal with some of the problems that lower wage workers are facing.
I think my take on that is, you know, we've got to separate policy and politics and just be real clear about the issue and in an apolitical way. And I think that can be done.
Yes. Could you state your name?
Sure. I'm Charles Haichu at America's Promise Alliance. Just commissioned research that has found that 50% of the kids in our largest cities, 50 largest cities across the country, are dropping out at rates of 50%. So I fully support the supports that you're providing for low-wage workers as they exist now. But what are you doing, or what are you thinking about to address the pipeline of kids that are coming up, not even having access to the vast majority of jobs that are being produced now that require some post-secondary education?
The business leadership, one of the recommendation issue areas is basic education and life skills. And in that section, we deal with issues greater than just the education and training piece. While we understand those things are very important tools, there also needs to be, I think, a focus that's multi-tiered, that deals with, we have some recommendations that deal with middle school collaborations, high school collaborations to increase the opportunities for kids to actually graduate from high school, but also a recognition that not everyone is going to go and get a bachelor's degree in a four-year institution. What are some things that can be developed, programs that will link these students to get practical experience on the job at the same time that they're getting their education in middle and high school? And so we have several recommendations that deal with encouraging employers to get involved with their schools and coordinate with them in developing curriculum that will help these kids stay in school as well as be prepared to go out in the job force.
Well, that's good. Our number one finding of the kids that we surveyed across the country said the number one thing that would have kept dropouts in school is greater connection to real-world opportunities and education.
Great.
We're going to move on to the next part of our panel, but I wanted to ask you, will you be willing to make sure everybody gets a copy of your report if they sign up on our sign-in sheet?
Yes, we will make sure.
Most excellent, most excellent. So let's turn to Daniel. Daniel, Step Up Savannah's Poverty Reduction Initiative, which you and I have been talking about for some time, including with the mayor, and it's been great working with the mayor as well. You know, it grew out of an action plan that a poverty task force created, which was an interesting gestation in and of itself. Can you sort of take us back and what led up to the creation of that task force, and what were some of the key findings about poverty in the city that contributed to what came out of it?
About 4 years ago, there was a task force that was commissioned by the former mayor, Mayor Adams, and Mayor Johnson actually made the recommendations from that task force solidified by really making it a priority for City Council to look at poverty reduction. But really what led to this task force was a state of poverty which was persistent for 30 years, which was 6 points higher than national average, which had had a lot of money actually coming to a lot of good programs within the city, within the county, but had yielded very few results as far as really getting that number down. The rate of the poverty for Savannah is 22%, which is 6 points higher than the national average. And so really, when folks were convened in this task force and continued to work through the task force, they realized that a different approach was needed, and very much that the business community was really needed to be at the table. And so they set about looking at research through conducting a lot of focus groups, studying the census data at that point, doing a lot of surveys, and really going through a whole community process and putting together an action plan, which outlined the problem, outlined the barriers to self-sufficiency, defined self-sufficiency as $34,500 for a family of 4. So of course, really looking at that range between folks that are in poverty and what it takes to be self-sufficient. And organizing the task force then into action teams, each of those action teams addressing the barriers to self-sufficiency, dependent care, looking at child care and senior care, transportation, health care, workforce development, education, affordable housing, asset building, which was looking at EITC, financial education, a banking task force, the bank the unbanked, and so forth and so on. So really, the action plan really set, I guess, the framework, so to speak, for
Well, within this
community.
framework, what were the goals, broadly speaking, that were hoped for as your posts along the way?
Yeah. Well, the goals were to really be focusing within the neighborhoods in the area of workforce development, to try to be linking the community centers up so that if they were working on GED programs or they're working on workforce development programs, along with our technical college, which had identified areas that were career-level jobs within our industry. And let me just step back for a moment and just say that Savannah is a thriving economy right now. We've got we've got the second largest port on the East Coast. We've got a strong manufacturing sector still with Gulfstream and JCB tractors. We've got a strong hospitality, of course. A lot of folks come to Savannah to see the beautiful city. We've also got a military base, which is right next to Savannah. And so we've got 2 large hospitals. We've got about 6 universities with about 35,000 students. And so we've got a lot of opportunity for economic growth within Savannah. And so really, that really set the framework saying for the politicians and the business leaders to say, this rate of poverty is really unacceptable. We really need to look at measured outcomes within the areas that I just described, whether they be, and you've got a handout on your tables which describes some of those outcomes, whether it be increasing the number of the earned income tax credit through the volunteer VITA sites, or whether it be increasing the amount of folks that are unbanked and getting them banked into mainstream banking, or whether it be increasing the impact of the workforce development programs in the neighborhoods, or the GED programs in the neighborhoods, or as a recent project which we just started a year ago with the help of the Ford Foundation and the Families and Work Institute, working with employers, helping them to access public benefits. So working actually with 3 sectors, public, the warehousing, the hospitality, actually 4 sectors, and the hospitals, in helping to go to those sites and sign folks up for the earned income tax credit, food stamps, and so forth and so on. And really highlighting what employers are already doing in our community and getting them talking with one another, sharing their success stories, and getting more employers to sign in on this idea of hopefully making a business case. We're very much in the early stages, but that's what we intend to do, is really make a business case for what we're doing. But not by going there and saying, we need you to do this, but really getting them talking to one another and saying, this is why we're doing it, because it improves our bottom line.